I'm Barbara Piscopo, and I was born in Waterbury, Connecticut in 1932, so that makes me 70 years old right now. And I was brought up in Oakville, Connecticut with my grandmother. My mother died when I was 5 and my brother was 4, so my grandmother brought us up. I remember part of the war efforts were some of the things that we did. We had to collect gum wrappers. Gum was all wrapped in aluminum foil, and we would make big balls and we would turn it in, and then you would get money back for it. Then another project that we had was after the war, or in that period of time, excuse me, was that they collected string, and you made big balls of string, and to save everything. And also, we had ration stamps. Did you hear about those yet? Yeah, you did. Okay. And so everybody had to be careful about food because you could only use so many ration stamps. And when I went to Girl Scout camp, my ration stamps for my food had to go with me. Also, gas was rationed, so you didn't go very far or use your car unnecessarily. People bought war bonds at that time. Then later on it was government bonds. That's how my kids got to college, because my husband was a teacher after we got married. Well, that's later on. What else? It was fun. You're not really aware of what was really going on in the world, as a preteen. Then we moved to Waterbury, Connecticut, and I went to Crosby High School, graduated Crosby High School. And I had a wonderful life growing up. I went to Girl Scout camp. Girl Scout camping, my love of theater, because we used to put on plays at camp, and we'd do like Stephen Foster plays, and then we'd have Christmas in July, and we'd put all ivory soap, beat it up, put it on the bushes for snow, and we'd all dress up and put on a whole Christmas show for Christmas in July. And then another thing, we did the Stephen Foster musical with the candles all on the stage, and all this beautiful music. And every day we would sing on the steps before you went into dinner or lunch, and so you would sing. So that's where I really enjoyed. I still know all my Girl Scout songs, and teaching them to my granddaughter who was babysitting for. High school was fun. I worked. I wanted to be a cheerleader. I wanted, desperately to be a cheerleader, and I didn't make it. So then, finally, I did make it, but then it was too late. I had to work after school. In the meantime, let's back up a little bit. I belonged to a fellowship group in my church, a young people's, it's called Coombs Fellowship, and that was the 7th and 8th graders, and then the high school group was called the Pilgrim Fellowship. And that was a wonderful teenage experience. We would meet every Sunday evening, small worship service, some sandwiches, games, and things like that. So it was really good fun for teenagers. And we had a dance at our church, and it was called Canteen, Friday Night Canteen. And you could go in, and our assistant minister was a very nice young man, and he saw a need for this in the community at that time. So that was the only place my grandmother let me go, was to the church canteen. So, so we would go, and of course the girls would line up on one side and the boys on the other side until Mr. Liebeck got busy, and he would have a broom dance. Did you ever hear one of these stupid things? He'd have a broom, and he'd go out, and he'd have one couple start the dance. Then he would give them the broom. Then they'd dance a little while. When he stopped the music, you had to pass the broom on to another person, and they had to come up and dance. So everybody eventually was dancing. So that was fun. And then, he'd do the tricks like having the girls go around in the circle and the boys in the opposite circle, whoever you had to dance with, and mixed up, and just got us over that very awkward time when we were teenagers growing up. Kids would never do that nowadays, I don't think. And then we sold soda, and we had records, only records to play that night. And and you could come in, but you couldn't go back out. And then if there was trouble, Mr. Liebeck would go out with the rough, tough crowd that wanted to come in and not let them come in, unfortunately. But then It was fun, and every dance it ended with a song, and you hoped that you would be dancing with the boy that you had eyes for. um, I was still with my grandmother at that time. We lived on Grand Street in Waterbury, and it was a fun time, high school. I remember I was in the pre-nursing program, so we had to take Latin and 2 years of Latin at least, but I liked the teacher so much, so I ended up taking 4 years of Latin. And I was telling you about Pilgrim Fellowship. I'm sorry, I'm jumping around. But we would go to the summer conferences every summer, and you were chosen to go, or you put in your name to go to these conferences, and they were all over. Now they have a conference center. It's called Silver. But we didn't have that, and we would go to different schools, like gunnery school, or camp, a YMCA camp, all young people. And it was a wonderful thing. We'd have some classes in the morning, and then fun and games and just fellowship. It was a great time to go out. And I learned a great deal there and just loved it. In high school, you had your girlfriends, and we wore blouses, little short blouses with a little scarf tied around our neck, long skirts, and down to the top of our ankle socks, and white and brown shoes. They were called saddle shoes at that time, you know. So that's what we looked. That's how the costume of the day was. Then we went to the proms, and we wore. My grandmother used to make my gowns for me. And one gown she made me was a black velvet top with a red netting bottom, but she unfortunately put all red netting along the top, and it scratched and itches, but oh, it was terrible. But you know, you just smiled and they believed everything was okay. So we had a good time at their proms. In Waterbury, there were 3 schools: Wilby, Crosby, and Leavenworth, and we all shared the same gym for the prom. And each school would have a section that they would decorate, like Crosby blue and white, Wilby blue and green and white, and then Leavenworth red and white. So they would put up streamers and everything like that. And after, we would go out. I was going to stay, of course, from the football players. So we'd get in the car, we'd drive over to New York State to have a drink, you know, at that time. So that was very bad. Then another thing, sometimes I cheated on Pilgrim Fellowship, and I would be going now with this football player, and we'd go up to Hartford to see the big bands up at the Hartford State Theater. And we'd see Tommy Dorsey and Stan Kenton and all the big bands at that time, and then come home, and unfortunately I told my grandmother that I was at Pilgrim Fellowship and not up in Hartford at the State Theater. But I worked at that time. I worked, previous to that I babysat, quite a bit of babysitting. And it started out we'd get paid maybe 50 cents for the night, and then after 12 o'clock you could get $1. You know, so that was big, so you'd hope they stay out after 12 o'clock so you could get $1. And then one summer I went to the shore with a family for babysitting. Oh my gosh, it was awful. You were expected to take care of the kid all the time, the little boy. He was a nice little boy, but you were expected to dust and clean, and you were on duty all day until night, and then even at night you were still on duty. And so that was kind of a tough summer for me, but made big money. Then I started working at the Waterbury Hospital, and when I was 16 I think we could start working. And I worked at the front desk, and we delivered mail. Took patients when they're admitted up to the floor in a wheelchair, and then it was very formal. We had to behave. We had to just stand there at the end of the ramp. So I worked there at the Waterbury Hospital until I graduated from Crosby High School. And at that time, if we got 90 and above, we didn't have to take our final exam, so we were all, just get out of quite a few exams. It's a good student. I liked school. And the friends I was with, I belonged to an organization called Rainbow Girls, Masonic Hall. It was a Masonic thing, and I belonged there and had wonderful experiences there too. After Crosby, I went into training. They call it training, nurses training. the Waterbury Hospital School of Nursing, 1950. And so 3 years, and you went and you lived in the dormitories right there. You weren't allowed to go out at night. In fact, at 7 to 9, the house mother would come around, make sure everybody was studying, and we would be running around the halls, and then she'd come up and storm up after us. And while we were working, we also, while we were learning, taking classes all during the day, you would go over and practice. You would practice in a nursing arts lab, they called it. Then you'd go over and practice on the patients. And we had wonderful nursing instructors. That was a beautiful part of my life, too. I love nursing, and I did very well with nursing. We had good fun. We'd have a nurses' camp out at Quassapog, and we'd go out there. We'd work all night, and then we'd go out there and stay for the day and sleep, and then go swim.